This is Eat, Sleep, Invest, the marketing podcast for real estate investors to get more deals. Hey, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Eat, Sleep, and Invest. I'm your host, Brian Driscoll, and I'm here with Austin McCurdy. What's going on, man?
Hey, Brian. Good to see you.
Hey, you too. Yeah, glad to have you on. Today's going to be interesting because we're talking about employees, hiring, personality traits. Hey, Austin, give everyone like a little background on what you do.
Sure. Well, Brian, I didn't know you were a Steelers fan, so I'm not sure if we can continue this podcast or not.
Hey, you see it back there? Where is it? Right there?
Yeah, we may have to reschedule this thing and think about this a little more.
Right.
No, so I work for Sharper Business Solutions. I'm one of the owners there at Sharper, and what we do is work with companies on systems and processes and really building out goal structure for their organization. Also help them do hiring and utilizing their current team and things like that as well. I've been with them almost 5 years doing this, worked with, I think almost 1,000 real estate investors that we work with at this point. Hired almost 7,000 people in my lifetime, my adult life here. So I've done a lot of hiring, gotten it wrong a lot of times, and try to improve that process and get better at it. So that's what I spend most of my time doing nowadays.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the hardest things is interviewing people, but then finding and knowing how to tell who's right, like getting the right people in the right seat. Is that what you see?
Yeah, hiring is always like subjective. It always is like it's a gamble, right? And what we're trying to do is we're trying to stack the odds in our favor as employers. Is what we're trying to do. Right when you go to interview somebody. So traditionally, or when you're trying to choose a candidate, traditionally, if you're recruiting, what you're going to do is you're going to post a job ad, right? You're going to start bringing leads in it. Recruiting is really just a sales process. There's lead generation, there's lead management, and then there's the close. This is really what happens. So you have lead gen. And so lead gen, you're going to do that through the job boards. There's a bunch of them out there. I think we post on like 60 some odd job boards. So you have the job boards that are out there. You've got your own connections, people A lot of people downplay that and think, well, I don't know that many people. But sure enough, when you put it out there on social media, all of a sudden somebody's like, hey, I know somebody that's looking for a job. But that's just the lead gen of it, right? It's the front end side of it. Maybe you use a headhunter, and the headhunter lead gens. And headhunters do things, headhunters tend to focus on one position in maybe one industry, and they are generating a list, right? It's a very niche list of these people that do this job. And then they're calling them, cold calling them, texting them, emailing them, saying, hey, we have this job offer. Do you want to come work for this company? Right? And so that's a lead gen, a hunting lead gen source. And so we generate leads and we get a resume, right? We look at a resume and we say, oh, cool, this person has done this job before. They must be good at it, right? Yep. And really when you stop right there, right, as soon as you say it, immediately think, yeah, that actually doesn't work. Right. So I used to own a bunch of Papa John's pizza restaurants. That's why I hired so many people. I had a couple hundred employees and turnover was really high. So we're constantly hiring. And I remember getting applications and a guy who worked at Domino's, and I'd say, awesome, this is going to be great. And he's working at Domino's. He already knows what he's doing. A couple little tweaks, we'll be good to go. And then I realized on day one why he no longer worked at Domino's, right? Because he was just a terrible employee. And so we all don't realize that, but still, as employers, we look at resumes, we look for job experience. We say, oh, well, they've stayed at this company for 5 years. Oh, they've done sales before. Oh, they've done transaction coordination before. I see that one a lot. They worked for a title company. Well, we can hire for a TC, stuff like that. We say they must be good. We bring them in for an interview, and we look at culture. We say, okay, and they're going to be a fit here. Is this somebody that we want to work with every day, all day, right, in our office? Are they a culture fit? Maybe we do some vetting to make sure that they really know what they're talking about, what was on the resume. Which was really funny. We are a recruiting company, and we'll get on a phone call with somebody, and they'll be like, we'll message them and say, hey, we'll schedule an interview. And they'll say, okay, which company is it again I applied for? And we'll tell them, they'll say, oh, yeah, let me send you a different resume. And they'll have a completely different resume for that type of a job. They have different resumes for different jobs.
Sure.
Which makes sense. If I'm going to apply for a sales position, I'm going to put together a resume that makes me look like a good salesperson, right? If I'm going to be a manager position, I'm going to apply for a job that makes I'm going to do a resume that makes me look like a good manager. So anyway, those are usually the two things we look at. And then we say, okay, I've got a good feeling about this person. I'm going to go ahead and hire them, right? And see what happens.
The gut check. That's what everyone does. Yeah.
And people will say, oh, I'm a good judge of character. Okay, let's all be honest. None of us are good judges of character. All right, like it just isn't. None of us really have that. And I'm not definitely like the gut check. You should do a gut check. But if you're relying on like that entirely, like that's a problem. Or we'll ask them like made up scenarios or trick questions, which actually have proven to be the worst predictors of job performance. But we're looking at these things that we feel like this resume that they wrote, we're going off the information they gave us and making a decision off of that. And then we're in an interview in a conversation that we feel good about. And we're saying, okay, I feel good about this person. Let's move forward. And what we do, and I work with Predictive Index within Sharper, my Predictive Index certified partner, is we actually pull people data. So we like to say that we're playing Moneyball, if you've seen the movie Moneyball, right? The Oakland A's. We start pulling people data out of them and start making decisions based on data and looking at knowledge, skills, and experience, right? Values, all those things play a part in it. But we also add their behavioral profile, their behavioral, what motivates them. This is what behavioral is. Let's try to explain that one. And say what actually motivates them. So is the job they're going to be doing motivating them? And then second, we look at how fast do they solve a complex problem. And those two right there are two of the top three predictors of job performance. So like a resume is only 12%, cognitive ability is 42%, and behavioral is 28% predictor. So start using those things to get a much better picture of who this person is, right? What motivates them and how fast they solve a problem.
Yeah, that's a good point. You said a couple things in there. Like, okay, let's think about dating. We always used to call it the rep. It's like when you're dating, the rep's out for like a month or two, and then you meet the real person. Same thing with employees. Like they come to an interview, they're selling you, right?
Well, exactly. Which is funny you say that because okay, we'll be hired for an operations role or like a bookkeeper, something like that. Okay, so somebody like that, I'll use myself for example. I'm not a salesperson. Like I'm actually in PI. I'm the opposite of sales. I hate sales. When I came to work at Sharper, I had three parameters, like, boundaries. And one of my boundaries was like, don't do sales. And Gary Harper, my first business card said sales manager on it. I called him up. I'm like, I'm employee number 4. I'm like, Gary, why am I the sales manager? He's like, you're just going to manage the sales department, which was him. And if you know Gary, I'm like, dude, I'm not managing you. There's no managing you. Like from that,
right.
But, so the point is, right in for an interview, I'm not a salesperson. I'm not a real high social person. I'm talking a lot right now for our podcast, and we're talking about a topic I enjoy and know a lot about. But when I go in an interview, I'm really bad at selling myself. So when I sit down with you, but I am the ideal, like, bookkeeper, CFO. I have the experience. I have the knowledge. I have the training. I have all of that. But when I sit down with you, I'm not really going to sell myself. It's not going to be a great interview. Now, somebody like Gary Harper, who hates doing finances and hates doing like reconciling books he would rather stick pins in his eyeballs than do that. But he's a great salesperson. He sits down at an interview. You're going to be like, this guy is amazing. This is the guy that I need on my team. He's the wrong fit for bookkeeping. He's the right fit for sales. So in an interview, I often would get that. We'll send them candidates for like an operations role, and they'll just be like, yeah, the interview wasn't that great. And I'm like, yeah, it shouldn't have been that great. This isn't a salesperson. This is an operations person, But so yeah, to your point, the good salespeople sell themselves in an interview.
Yeah, and you're right too, because it depends on the role. Like a sales role, you kind of want a sales guy, but you're right. The guys that are actuarial, like the numbers guys, a lot of them, they don't want to. They're not going to sell you, and then you have to be able to get that information out to be able to tell, okay, this guy is really a good fit, and that's kind of where you're saying you guys help people, right?
Yeah. So what we're looking at is that exactly. So obviously, real estate, probably the number one. Well, not probably the number one most sought after position is acquisitions, right? We got what does everybody say? Like the deal starts with the buy. You got to buy it right.
Right.
You don't buy it right, it doesn't matter. So acquisitions is where it's all at. That's usually the largest department in an acquisitions. Well, sales is the largest department, And then usually when we get into acquisitions, it's going to be the largest like division of the sales department, because a dispo rep can usually dispo for 2 to 3 acquisitions reps, something like that. So there's always going to be that, a lead manager can handle 2 or 3 acquisitions reps. So that's always going to be your largest position as you're building your company out and you're growing. That's going to be where the most people are at. Not to mention salespeople, and we can talk about why they do this, but salespeople turn over at a fairly high rate. And everybody's always like, oh, why are my salespeople always leaving? And we can talk about why, one of the reasons why, a lot of reasons, but we talk about behaviorally why they leave. So that acquisitions department is the one you're having most people, and it's turning over, and it's usually growing the fastest, and we're looking for that. So we talk about like that role, you can go look for so we're looking for somebody who's got like sales experience, okay? Well, really, acquisitions isn't sales when you actually think about it. There's some sales skills that are involved in there, but there's a reason why there's training out there that's specifically real estate sales training, right? Like Steve Trang and some other people like that. Steve's in CG with us. There's other people who do that sales training because it's very specific, because acquisitions isn't sales. You're not selling anything. It's not, here's this product, go sell it. It's, here's this appointment, go buy this house, right? And get it for the lowest price you can. If there is any sales, it's go sell them on why we are the best option for them, right? That's really the sale. But you're buying a house, it's a little bit different. So what are we looking for in that? What kind of behavior? Well, we're looking for somebody who's pretty dominant, right? They're competitive. They're comfortable with conflict. I mean, you got to sit there and tell this person, by the way, your house is probably, we can only pay you 50% of what you think the value of the house is. That's a difficult conversation. If you're not comfortable with that conflict, that's probably going to, who was I talking to? Oh, Eric Brewer was talking about, he was on an appointment years ago, and somebody like literally hit him, like decked him on an appointment. Like, if you're not ready for a certain amount of conflict in there, it's probably not a role for you, right? And we need to be competitive, right? We're putting them against other acquisitions reps, and it's all the hype and the goals, and we're going to do this. And the next week, we're coming and do it all over again, right? We're constantly trying to get more sales. There's that competitive environment. And if you're not comfortable in a competitive environment, let me back up, not comfortable, but if that doesn't motivate you, acquisitions probably doesn't motivate you, right? You're talking to people all day. What is the main function of that job? Talk to people. Well, if talking to people doesn't motivate you, do you really want to do that job, right? It's a pretty fast-paced work environment, right? They're going to this appointment and that appointment and here and there and go. And hey, we got a hot lead, go right now, right? Multiple priorities, a lot going on, mobility, they're out and about. We need somebody who's motivated by that doesn't want to just sit in the office all day, right? And then we go on to, will they take no for an answer? I don't do well in sales because no means no to me. I like rules, I like structure. So when you say no, no means no. I don't overcome objections, right? But in sales, what does no mean? Well, no mean, that's where we start. And there's sales trainings out there that you're looking for no. Why? So you can overcome the objection.
Yep.
So if no means no to you, that's a problem for sales. So I walk into sales. I don't like conflict. So I'm not going to negotiate. I'm not motivated by social interaction. So I'm not looking to talk to people. I'm more of a steady kind of person. So the constant go all day. People are like, you travel all the time, Austin. I'm like, I do on Wednesdays and Thursdays. I'm structured. I leave on Tuesday night. I come back Thursday night. That's all I go. My calendar is blocked out, right? Like that. So I'm a middle of the road. I can go either way, but I'm middle of the road steady, right? And then I follow the rules and structure. So I don't overcome no. So anyway, it's things like that. We're looking for an acquisitions rep. So if you hire an acquisitions rep, for example, that is more of a steady, precise person, they may have sold something, but maybe they sold like one. Okay, I'll even create an example. If you ever go buy a car, go to car dealerships, test this out. Go to the Toyota dealership, walk onto the lot and see what happens, okay? And then go down to BMW, walk onto the lot and see what happens. And 2 different things are going to happen. When you walk on the Toyota, they're going to come out the door and come to you, like immediately, right? As soon as you step out of your car, like somebody's out there like a bee on honey. Like, hey, how you doing today? You looking for a car? Okay, that's what Toyota's going to do. Go down to BMW. You know what they do? You get out of your car, you'll walk around the lot, nobody will come out. After about 5 minutes, you'll finally be like, okay, somebody come talk to me, and you'll go inside. When you go inside, the lady at the counter will tell you, have a seat, somebody will be right with you. You'll sit down, then the salesman will come up, and he'll kind of be like, so, looking for a car? Yep. Where do you work? Right out of the gate. Where do you work? And they're almost like, are you even worthy of driving a BMW? It's very funny. Go talk to a salesperson at BMW, right?
Yeah.
It's two different sales profiles based on what BMW wants to be. We're the ultimate driving machine. And you're getting a BMW, like, this is it. Toyota just wants to sell you a car, right? It's very funny. I was car shopping last year, and I watched it happen, and looked at the behavioral side of things, like, oh, with a different kind of behavior for a different product. The same thing with acquisitions. If you're looking at just a salesperson, but is it a salesperson who's motivated by the goal and making money? Or is it a salesperson who's motivated by social interaction? Because one is motivated by social interaction will tend to pay too much for a house. He's going to feel sorry for the seller. Oh, I'm so sorry that Fido's buried out back. Yeah, I can get an extra 10 grand because it really means something to you, right? Things like that. I know that sounds cold-hearted, but in acquisitions, if you don't buy it right, you're stuck. Right? Now, we go over to dispositions, completely different. Dispositions is usually repeat buyers. There's a relationship being built. Right? It is more social. It's, oh, I know Bob. He's looking for that certain house. Let me call him up. Hey, Bob, how you doing? I got this house. It's a great deal. See the kind of the difference of behaviors that we're looking for in those two sales goals.
Yeah. Now, what do you see? What are the differences between acquisitions and lead management? Because that's, people look at that, it's both sales, but they're totally drastic different things, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So lead management, think about this. That's the first interaction that client is having with your company. Okay? So that's the first person they're talking to. And, I know in CG, they'll probably talk about it some more next week, but that lead management position, like, where are you sourcing it from? Right? Things like that are playing a part in that lead management because that's the face of your company. The voice of your company out of the gate. So what we're looking for in that one, whereas in acquisitions, it's somebody who's more, a little more aggressive, right? Comfortable with the conflict, more independent like that. On that initial call, I'm actually looking for somebody who's more collaborative, right? They're more the good cop. Oh, we can help you. We're a great company. What's your problem? Let me listen to you, right? They're high social. They're empathetic to their situation. Oh man, I'm so sorry you got served foreclosure. And you got to be out of your house in 30 days. Yeah, we can help you out, right? We've got programs for you. Let me get some information from you, right? And then stop and listen to the customer, take down the notes, fill out the CRM, get all the information, right? They're not having the conflict. They're not telling the customer, oh yeah, you can't get that much for your house. So how much do you think you're looking for it? $200,000. A lead manager is not saying, oh, well, that's way too high, right? No. Get the appointment, right? On a scorecard KPI, the KPI for lead manager is how many appointments did they set? That's their KPI. Right? We talked about this last week with a client. The difference between qualifying leads and disqualifying leads. Right? There's a big difference between whether you're a lead manager, are you trying to disqualify leads or are you trying to qualify leads? Right? I know you all are, generate leads for folks, and in that lead manager role, which one are they trying to do? We want to be qualifying leads, right? And setting appointments for our acquisitions reps. And then let the acquisitions rep get there, use their sales skills to say, yeah, we can help you, but here's the reality of your situation, right? And so in lead management, we're looking for somebody who is more people than task focused, whereas acquisitions are more task or goal focused, right? Okay. So that's kind of the difference. And I need them to be a little more steady. I need to listen to the person on the phone, right? Make that connection with them. Stop and listen, not immediately try to solve their problem like somebody who's a little faster paced would be. Okay, from there as well.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that's kind of...
Yeah, that makes sense on those two different roles. Now, say you're hiring, how are you finding out if these people are fit for, because you use Predictive Index. Like, explain to everybody first, what is Predictive Index?
Sure. Yeah. So Predictive Index is a company that's been around since 1955. So been around a long time. They're one of only 2 assessments that can be used legally to make a hiring decision. So whenever you're using a tool in the HR world, whenever you're using a tool that is compliant with HR like laws, labor laws, there has to have been a job validity study done with it. So if you're using a tool, that's kind of the buzzword, is has there been a job validity study done? PI has had over 350 job validity studies done. So it is 95% accurate, which is accurate enough to meet those requirements. And it measures what it's supposed to measure, which it measures what motivates people. So that's what Predictive Index is. It is a subscription-based service. So you buy it for a year and you can send out as many assessments as you want. And you also build out targets. So actually we go in with you and say, okay, what are you looking for in acquisitions? So I kind of gave you some standard answers on acquisitions. Some teams do it a little bit different. I was just in Canada. Our first international client was Sharper. They're in Toronto. And we kind of were looking at that. Well, there's some cultural nuances there when you go out there. And so we kind of had to look and say, okay, in acquisitions, it's different. We had to retool the target we're looking for acquisitions in Canada because it's a little different. And the same thing across the United States. There's some nuances to some things. I gave you kind of the general one. But so you can build out the target you're looking for, and then you run the assessments on folks. So what we do is anybody who applies for a job with your company, you send them a link to take the PI right out of the gate, take behavioral and cognitive assessments. So we posted, like when we post a job on Indeed, we put it Indeed has some automation in there. As soon as somebody applies, they immediately get a welcome email, and in the welcome email is the link to take that behavioral assessment, which only takes people, it's not time, but the average is 6.5 minutes. It's very quick. There's some other assessments out there that are 40 minutes, an hour. This one is really, really quick, but the kind of information it gives you, I like to say it's voodoo magic. It's like crazy what it identifies on people in that little 6 minutes of them choosing a bunch of words. So we automatically send it to them. We get back the results. We build out a target of what we're looking for. We're looking for dominant, social, fast-paced, low rules of structure. And then the software says, hey, these people are a 10, this person's a 10 out of 10, this person's a 9 out of 10, this person's an 8 out of 10, 1 out of 10. And then we're going to take, all the 8s, 9s, and 10s, and we're going to go through resumes at that point. So you look at it this way, it's a rifle, not a shotgun. Right? Now we have resumes. Now we say, okay, cool. Out of these resumes, these people qualify, right? Have the other qualifications we're looking for. Now we can start recruiting because those are the people we want. Phil Green?
Yeah.
So Phil, he is Predictive Index. We coach him with that, work with him on that. And he was telling me he's going to the colleges in San Diego and he's running behavioral assessments at these job fairs and stuff like that on like all the students. And he's looking for just a 2 sigma wide maverick who is a situational decision maker, whether he's objective or subjective, right in the middle, with at least, I think, a 300 cog score. I mean, he's got this thing dialed into what he's looking for. And so he's running at all the college students, and then he knows those are the ones that I want. And then he starts calling them and pulling them in for an interview. And he sits down with them and he says, hey, so this is everything you like, and this is everything you don't like doing. And they're like, yeah, that's right. How did you know that? And he's like, well, we had you take this assessment. They're like, okay. He's like, so here, the job we're hiring you for, you're going to do all of this, and you're not going to do any of this. And they're like, when can I start? And they're being made offers by like large corporations, and they're like, yeah, and they'll tell them like who you applied with, and they'll tell him. And he's like, well, yeah, they're going to make you do this, this, and this. And I'm like, yeah, I don't want to do that. And he's like, well, come work for us, and you only do what you like to do.
Yeah.
Because if somebody is doing what they like doing, there's 34% better performance, just to put some ROI on it, than when you're doing something you don't like doing. So
that makes sense too, because like what I like doing or what I don't like doing, somebody else loves doing. Like say, for example, you like some things that I would hate to do. So finding that right person is very important, because it would be a way better work experience if I get to do what I like to do. And then the things I don't like doing, you're really good at those, but you don't like doing what I like doing.
Yeah. And that's a Sharper. What we do is when we come work with a client, we build out like accountability charts to start with, like day one. And we look at every position in the company and we say, okay, what is that position responsible for? This is one of the reasons why we run it on the teams we work with. but and then we kind of we do some training on it. Because we look at that position, we say, okay, is everything in that position the same kind of behavior? For example, is going on appointments and reconciling the bank accounts would not be in the same position, right? Those are two completely different things. So I'm using extremes, but we would build it out with, okay, here's lead management, here's part of lead management, and here's all the things we want this lead manager to do. Are those all things that are similar to each other? Now, I get it. There's some things we have to do we don't like doing sometimes, but the majority of what they're responsible for, do they like doing, right? And then we'll look and say, okay, yes, it is. That position's built out. Now we're looking for somebody who likes doing that, right? And then we go to the next position. So we build out all the positions, look at profiles and say, here's the behavior we're looking for. Now let's go find somebody who that motivates them. We're going to get that kind of behavior out of them naturally. They're not going to have to be somebody different at work. They're just going to show up like normal every day. No energy is being expounded to do that and do that job because they love doing that job. My bookkeeper that works for me, she's worked for me for 10 years. I'm like the first, second, I have P&Ls by the 5th of the month. I don't know anybody who has P&Ls by the 5th of the month. You know what her favorite thing to do is? Reconcile bank accounts. So the day that the bank emails her they're available, she has downloaded them and she's literally up through the night reconciling bank accounts because my deadline is the 15th. I have them by the 5th because I'm literally out of the email like on the 2nd of the month with, hey, what are all these things? I'm like, you've already reconciled them? Why? Because she loves doing that. And when you look at her predictive index, it's like, yeah, you actually love doing this kind of stuff. And
Right.
Because of it, I have P&Ls instantly. I have them, because she loves doing that.
So now if somebody, say we're hiring for acquisitions, right? And somebody applies and they're not a fit. The test shows, hey, you're not a fit. Will it pop up and be like, you know what? They're not a fit for this, but they would be a good lead manager or they would be a good dispo or whatever.
Yeah. So in the software, when we'll build out all the positions in the software, and that person applies, and let's say to your point, they're a 2 out of 10, the software, they're not a match. You can actually go and it will say other job matches, and I can click it and it will tell me they're a 10 out of 10 for this, 7 out of 10 for this, they'll fit this and that. But you bring up that's that question. But on that note, people will come in and take PI and they'll say, well, we're looking for a maverick, and this is a guardian. Those are two exact opposite profiles. And they'll call me and they'll say, hey, I know we're looking for a maverick, but this guy's got 10 years of sales experience and blah, 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 blah. We interviewed him. He's really good. He's a guardian. Do you think we should hire him? And I tell them, I say, okay, listen, this person just told us what they don't like doing and what they like doing. Okay. They just said they don't like doing this. And what you're not going to say is, even though you said you don't like doing this, we're going to have you go do this.
Right.
And so what do you think is going to happen? And a salesperson like that, just to kind of explain, a guardian like me, so I am, I can do sales. I actually am a really, really good salesperson. Okay. If you give me one product to sell and I sell it over and over and over and over and over again, that's how a guardian, a high process person, I'll just, I'll have a brush on I don't know why I have a brush on my desk. I'm bald, but it's one of my daughters. But yeah, you tell me, go sell this brush. And I'm going to say, okay, tell me everything about this brush. And I'm going to know everything there is to know about this brush. And I'm going to go sell it. And I'm going to say, do you have another one for me to sell? Get the idea? And I'm going to keep selling this brush. Now, you take somebody like Gary Harper, he's going to go sell the brush. And then he's going to come back and say, hey, do you want me to go sell that marker? Well, do you want to know anything about the marker? No, I'm good. He doesn't need detail, structure, or plan. It's go with the ambiguity. And he'll sell whatever you hand up, right? That's your natural salespeople. Sales guy that I know that's a really, really good salesperson, you ask him why, and he goes, because all the men want to be me and all the women want me. He doesn't know why he sells. He's just as good at it, right? And so you can take a guardian and you can tell them to go sell one thing over and over again, and they can do that. So that's where you might see somebody who did sales for 10 years. But if you dig a little bit deeper, you'll find that, they sold this, this specific item, right? They sold paper. We'll use paper. They sold paper. That's all they sold for 10 years. They didn't sell pens. They didn't sell binders. They just sold paper, right? And that's why they don't. But then you bring them over and you say, hey, by the way, every appointment you go on is going to be different, right? Like it's not quite going to fit. So
Yeah.
that's where when they don't match. They just like don't match.
Now you help I know you help real estate investors. I think you help other industries too, but how does it work? Say we're a real estate investment company. Like, what all do you help with? How does it work? What's your ideal client look like? Things like that.
Yeah. So we work, about 75% of our clients are in real estate. But ironically to say that the last like 3 weeks, almost every client for me has been not in real estate. I've had a beauty supply company. I've had a men's health clinic. Yesterday I was with a aerostat testing company. So we work with those companies, all different sizes from, usually people start working with us when they're in that 500 to 750,000 a year revenue. It's kind of probably on the light end. And then I have clients that do $100 million a year, in different industries. The kind of ranges all from there. So small to medium-sized businesses, and kind of our sweet spot right now is people who are really looking to build a viable business, right? It's not a job. Most of us who start a business, we bought a job initially. And it's people who have been working a job as business owners for a few years now and are ready to really become a viable business. And then our next level of client that we work with are clients that are really looking to scale. And I like to define scaling as going wide. You got to go deep first. Viability is going deep, making sure your roots are good, and then scaling is going wide from there. Are we going to add more markets? Are we going to add more divisions? Right? We're really going to ramp up the number of people we have working here, things like that. So that's kind of the other phase we work with, and it's really kind of two different programs. Initially, in getting into a viable business is about, making sure that our foundation is strong, we're making money, and we have no single points of failure in our business, right? There's nothing that if somebody leaves tomorrow that we got a problem, right? And then the next phase is really working on moving people into, okay, let's scale it out. Let's really, ramp this thing up and go to the next level. So, but yeah, we work with your processes, training programs. We work with, hiring the right people, making sure they're in the right seat. We do things, leadership training, business structure, things like that. So
That's cool. What kind of time commitment? Say the 500 to 750,000 type of business. The guys that are just trying to build the business, get out of the job. What kind of time commitment and financial commitment? I know it's going to depend for all, but like ballparks.
Yep. So usually for like the smaller companies, we do a workshop every quarter, and usually my recommendation for them is always to come to that first and kind of, get going with the program from there. We're going to work with them to kind of get things structured. And then from there, you're looking at like every 90 days doing a quarterly meeting. You're looking at weekly team meetings, last about 90 minutes. And then every other week we do one-on-one coaching as well with the visionary and the integrator or the CEO and the COO. Larger corporations or larger companies, we're coming out on site with them. So we're coming out for 3 days on site, kind of spread out over a couple of months, and working with the leadership team, in person. And then we're building out process maps. We're building out training for training programs. So usually looking at, a couple of hours a week that we're investing in the company, working on the business. And then every quarter coming on site and working on the business with the leadership team from there as well. So, and that commitment for a year, I don't sit in sales because I don't like sales. So I hired somebody else that delegates it and does it. I know we have some updated programs, and I think I'm not exactly sure. Sorry. They go to sharperprocess.com and get information on that one. If I speak, I'll be wrong, and then I'll get in trouble with sales. So I will speak to that one. So.
I hear you. Okay, so the best way for people to reach out to you can tell, what's the website again?
Yeah, sharperprocess.com. Always can reach out via social media. I don't do a lot of social media. I pay attention to my messenger. So it's Austin McCurdy. I only have Facebook. Sorry, I know I'm old. So they can reach out on Facebook, message me. Feel free to go to the website and grab a link there and schedule some calls. Or you always email me at austin@sharperprocess.com. So, but I don't like answering emails, so my assistant will answer that one and let me know. So,
Awesome. Yeah. Well, hey, Austin, thanks for coming on. We appreciate it.
And you're welcome, Brian. All right, it's great.
Hey, thank you. Last question. What's your top book you recommend?
What would you say? Thought book?
Your favorite book.
Oh, wow. Right now, I'm reading Hero on a Journey by Donald Miller. And so that's my recommendation right now because that's what I'm currently reading. So.
All right, perfect. Hey, well, thanks for coming. And everybody, Austin's website's in the show notes. Check it out. Austin, thanks for coming. Everyone, thanks for listening. Till next time, get out there, crush it, close some deals.